We did it! We're here! We're alive! We're streaming! Holy cow. What a busy week, man. What a busy weekend I'm having. Just work, 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 work. That's all it is. It's just working and working and working. Living and breathing. Today I was just like, got up, went to a Labor Day Labor Day parade, right? Did a little walk around. I wish I could have stayed longer, honestly, but I was scheduled for work that day, and so I had to basically bounce from there. So I'm up at like 6 a.m., running to that, running to work, doing the shift, coming here. Now I'm here. So you guys can come and have some talks with me. Oh, hold on one second. I'm super disorganized. I'm unbelievable disorganized. So I'm going to be relying on lots of different things. Stream up. Hope you guys are all doing well. I suspect nobody's even going to show up because I'm starting so late. I usually start at 6. It's 7:30. Oh, I hope you guys all had a good weekend. I hope you all had a good weekend. I did the last stream I did that stream on Friday. And I was so angry and so grumpy the whole time, and I was just like really like, oh, and I had a headache and everything was awful. The stream on Thursday rather, not Friday, and I turns out I got food poisoning, and so what was happening that whole time I was streaming, I was feeling so bad and I was feeling so grumpy, and I wasn't really moving on with articles and stuff like this because I was food poisoned, right? So I just had this really shitty stream. And of course, it's the stream going into the weekend, exactly how I like to leave it, because I had some fucking food poisoning. It was absolutely brutal. But such is life. That's what happens. That's how it works. You go up and you go down, right? You go up and you go down. One of the other things that I've been really coming to terms with on this streaming idea and this whole thing about streaming is like, I know that I've been deplatformed. Like, I haven't been completely blacklisted. I haven't been like completely chased off the platform the way that someone like Andrew Tate has, but definitely like I've been deprioritized in the algorithm for sure. Like last month I got like 8 subscribers like over the whole month, you know? And whereas before I was getting like at least 50 to 100, and the content hasn't changed, the strategy hasn't changed, but what it means is it's just like, you know, if you say that you're a communist and you start talking about the Donbass war, you start talking about Ukraine, especially these days while we're in this like hyper McCarthyian era. And so I think I really got to finally make some moves and start moving off the platform, right? At least doing multi-streaming, right, or something, because I think that it's only a matter of time until YouTube basically makes it so that people like me are essentially not on the platform at all. Good to see you, Radio Halifax. Good to see you, bud. Yeah, I suspect this is going to be a pretty low turnout day today, what with the late stream, but such is life. Such is life. Hope you're doing well out there, bud. Hope you're doing well out there. What a weekend, man. What a weekend. And tomorrow I'm like, I don't know why I picked up another shift tomorrow. So tomorrow I got to wake up at like 6 a.m. and get to work. So I'm basically going to shut down this stream, maybe have a drink and go to bed, and then wake up first thing in the morning. Back at the grind. Back at the grind. But aren't we all? Aren't we all in the grind? Just the unbelievable grind of it all. And what I think is astounding, because I also put stuff up on TikTok, right? Like I do like little weird TikTok videos, just very quick stuff. Because TikTok's format's basically like if your video's longer than 30 seconds, like people tend to tune out or whatever. But because it's all just swipe, 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 swipe. And the amount of like, it's staggering how purposefully stupid people are. And at this point, it is like purposefully dumb. Like, they say things that are obviously ridiculous. And, like, the classic, like, communism's killed more people. Like, literally the only nation on the planet that's ever nuked civilian populations is capitalist. World War II was a capitalist war. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, and just like, I just feel like we're dealing with a kind of a level. Yeah, I just started grinning. I was at work. Today was a work day. I had to work it. It's Labor Day, right? So it's time and a half. I had to work it, and because money, right? And YouTube's throttling any monetization. Like, I'm not getting the turnaround from YouTube that I was hoping that I was going to get, and for all the effort that I put into it and all the angst and all the kind of concern, like, YouTube's not, like, they're never going to pay people like me to do this. That's just the hard truth. It really is going to be you guys. It's gonna be the Patreons. That's how this is going to work. Because YouTube is going to do everything it can to make sure that I'm completely demonetized. And until I get a Patreon base that's actually willing to, or capable, I shouldn't say willing, because that's not fair, but capable of supporting what I'm doing here, and capable of supporting what we're doing here, I gotta keep up the grind. Gotta keep up the grind, right? It's very simple, and I've just got to accept that these capitalist social media outlets are going to do literally everything they can to ensure that voices like mine and voices, communist voices and voices on the left, are just going to be silenced, shunted aside. You're not allowed to talk about things. You're not allowed to address certain things. Like, for real, if I say the word Ukraine, that's it. Like, it's over. Like, you cannot have an opinion. You cannot have an opinion of the Donbass War. If you have an opinion of the Donbass War that steps outside of the bounds of what is permissible, and I actually think straight up that the established leftists, like people like Noam Chomsky, people like Chris Hedges, people I respect, right? People like Robert Reich, Richard Wolff, right? I think that they know this, right? I think that like, even like Aaron Matei, the Gray Zone guys, right? Like, even these guys, like Katie Halper, Max Blumenthal, Ben Norton. Like, I think they all know this. I think they know that if you start talking about the Donbass War, and if you start saying, like, yeah, there was a coup, we overthrew the Ukrainian government, the same way that we overthrow all kinds of African nations, all kinds of South American nations, all kinds of Middle Eastern nations. Like, throughout American history, it's been the same story. Find a far-right group of fascists, right? Religious kooks and total fucking losers. Find the losers in the society, the gun nuts and the fucking eugenicists and the crazed, nightmare sociopaths, right? Give them the training and the weapons and the direction and everything they need in order to actually go and do the coup that they're all jerking off about, right? And then take over the country's resources, right? Which is the point, right? It's and that's exclusively what America does. That's how diplomacy is done by America, right? But if you point out that that's also what they did in Ukraine, like, if you point out that's exactly how they do in Ukraine, right? Then, we gotta, that's what a fringe position, right? What a sideways, fringy, odd little position that you're pointing out that America acted exactly the way America has always acted for a fucking 100 years. Hey, Major, how you doing? Good to see you. Anemone, good to see you too. Yeah, it was actually one of the I just heard about this. One of our regulars in the Discord, holy shit, I got there, told me about it, right? Shocked and devastated. Reaction to stabbing rampage at First Nation village in Saskatchewan. A stabbing rampage at Saskatchewan First Nation in a nearby village left 10 people dead, at least 18 others injured. Provincial RCMP said Sunday as officers continued to search for 2 suspects. We believe some of the victims have been targeted by the suspects and others have been attacked randomly. It's horrific. Yeah, honestly, I don't know anything about this. Like, I don't know anything about this, right? So we don't know what the circumstances are. We don't know who's doing this. We don't know anything about this, right? Literally, all we know is people have started randomly stabbing people. So, like, is there drug use involved? Is there like what's going on? We don't know. I know what you know, and what I know is literally this. So there has been wow, the attacks took place at 13 different locations. Wow, so they like went around and just like started stabbing the shit out of people. Straight up. Who knows? Who knows what drives this? Right? I mean, when the pressure cooker goes up, right? When the pressure cooker's on. Yeah, American capitalism, imperialism needs an enemy, communist or otherwise. Well, and I mean the big story, right? The big story that's been going on this whole weekend has been Dark Brandon's speech, right? Like this is the big story, right? Like, you want to talk about divisive, you want to talk about creating enemies, right? And the truth is that to what you just said, Grinning, right? That capitalism requires enemies, right? Communist or otherwise, right? The truth is that communism isn't a legitimate enemy. Like, they can't really, like, Tucker Carlson tries to do it, but who's he turning it against? He's turning it against Biden, right? Biden's the communist, right? And so if they can't create an external enemy, then they'll create an enemy out of the people themselves. And this is more or less what I think is happening, or what I see happening in the United States, is that the Democrats, I mean, Joe Biden, this is one of the most divisive speeches that has ever been given in American history. Like, you got to go back to like the American Civil War to see the kind of rhetoric that Joe Biden was saying. And the truth is that, like, and the Republicans are doing the same thing to the Democrats, right? Because they know that doing this kind of conflict and having this kind of fight is an attempt to legitimize the system, to drive people to the polls, because the battleground, they hope, is the polls. And they don't care if the battleground becomes the people fighting amongst themselves, literally, with weaponry that they sell both sides, right? Like, they don't care. Like, the point of all of this is to attempt to legitimize the system, and from both sides. You got to come vote Republican, or else the communists get in, and the communists will put everybody in gulags and all this kind of garbage, right? Oh, you got to come to the polls and vote for us, or else the Nazis, that's the MAGA Republicans, will get in power, and they're the biggest existential threat internally to America, yabba, yabba, yabba. Meanwhile, both sides work for the industrial capitalists. Like, both sides work for the technocrats. Both sides work for the billionaire class. Like, both sides work for Elon Musk. Both sides work for Bezos. Both sides work for Buffett, Gates, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Morgans, right? Both sides work for these people, right? So it's just WWE. It's just WWE. That's it, right? It's just that Biden is raising the bar on the Democratic side. That now it's not enough to point the finger at Trump. Now it's the MAGA Republicans themselves, right? Like, and again, it's just going to be this constant escalation and raising the bar. But essentially, it is, oh, I'm going to go into that ring and I'm going to take Mr. Hogan and I'm going to strangle him until he turns purple. And once he's purple like a grape, I'm going to squeeze all the juice out of him and I'm going to make the finest wine you've ever tasted in your life. I'm going to sell it across America for $10.99 a bottle. And I'm going to take all that money and I'm going to build a tombstone out of gold. And I'm going to put on it, "Here lies Hulk Hogan. He was delicious." That's it. That's all they're doing. That's it. It's not politics. You understand? Like, it's not politics. And it drives me crazy because people who I respect, people whose voices I listen to, right, are treating it as if it's politics, right? They're acting as if there's legitimacy to this, as if what is happening is anything other than just Joe Biden and his crowd, his crew, fighting for their job as a vanity project exclusively, right? Like, Joe Biden doesn't fight to become the president of the United States so that he can change the country or create a legacy or even like get it through tough times or all that kind of stuff. Joe Biden wants to be the president of the United States because it's prestigious, because it gives him a boner. That's fucking it. Like, that's fucking it. Like, they're not interested in governing. If they were interested in governing, they'd govern, right? But their style of government literally is just let corporations do whatever they want, right? That's it. That's their whole shtick. That's their whole pitch. We just let corporations do what they want. And even when they got to stand up and like do regulation, right? They basically just say like, this is like, for God's sakes, I've got an article here from, they've actually done an interview with Steve Guilbeault, right? Which is the Minister of the Environment. And in it, he essentially says, like, yeah, we just set a number and then we don't tell them how to get there. We just tell them to do it, right? And it's so stupid because of course the fucking corporations and all these guys are going to lie about it. Of course they're going to smudge and fuck with the numbers. Of course they're going to pretend as though they're doing it just so that they can technically hit a bar, right? Like they'll take the pollution from this corporation and then they'll take some credits and shuffle it over this way. And then they'll take, or they'll split a corporation in half, separate it, and then pretend like, oh, we lowered emissions because we sold this. And it's technically like, we cut our emissions by half because that's a different corporation, right? Like they're just going to fucking bullshit you about the whole fucking thing. While the ministers and everybody literally say to your face, yeah, we don't tell them what to do or how to do it or any of that kind of stuff. Like, we just set an expectation and then pretend as though the meeting of that expectation is actually genuinely being done instead of just bullshit, right? Instead of just total fucking bullshit the entire fucking time. And I'm pissed off about this Dark Brandon shit. I'm pissed off about this whole idea that, oh yeah, Biden's really giving it to them. Yeah, of course he is. Of course he is. That's how you hype people up. Because that's all they're doing. It's just hype jobs, right? It's just hype jobs. They're not actually doing real politics. They're not actually getting together and negotiating anything. They're not actually coming together and trying to work solutions out. They're not doing any of that. These guys show up, have a luncheon, take their orders from the rich who tell them what to say, and then just do it. Because they're all just a bunch of loser actors who don't give a fuck about any of this. They don't care about us. They don't care about you. They never will. They never will. Right? And they're more than willing to empower Nazis and fascists and losers. Like, they're more than willing to do this. They don't fucking care. And I'm annoyed that this is being reported on as if it's actually politics. And if it actually is, wow, Joe Biden's standing up, he's fighting for America. He's fighting for America. Like, you're looking at the most tepid, absolute, like, what's this guy done in terms of policy? Like the $10,000 student loan forgiveness that he's doing right before elections, of course. And then this shit right before elections, right? It's like the most bottom of the barrel, tepid, like not even warm enough to actually steep the tea, tepid bullshit. And we're all supposed to look at it and be like, wow, he's significantly different than the other guys, when he's fucking not at all. Matthias, how you doing, bud? My friend was stabbed to death the other night. He was a famous Canadian rapper, and around the same time across the country, there's a mass stabbing in Saskatchewan just when you think life can't get more crazy. Seems like my soul just keeps getting more weight added to it every day. Yeah. You gotta take that energy, man. I'm so sorry to hear about your friend, man. I'm really sorry to hear about your friend. That's some real shit right there, Matthias. That's some real shit right there, Matthias. Like, that's not talking about some fucking politician or some people who are having a tragedy. Like, that's a person you know. That's a thing that's real in your life. Like, all you can do about that, you know? Like, real talk here, guys. Like, every human being's life ends in a tragedy. There's just no avoiding it. There's just no avoiding it. Wow. Eminem and CNN even wrote about it. Wow. We all, like, every human life ends in death. You know? And if you try to bear that weight, you're gonna collapse under it. There just comes a point where you have to take that energy and you just got to send it back into the universe, and you just got to say, okay, I don't get it. I don't understand. It seems senseless. All of this seems senseless. This all seems utterly pointless. Our existence seems completely, like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here exactly? Like, what's the goal of any of this? What's the purpose? What's the point? It just seems like an odd little trick, or a weird little psycho made a universe and said, yeah, and then they'll come in and then they'll steadily degrade until they die. Right? It just seems like a layer of hell. It just seems like a type of crazed existence where the people who are in it can't figure out, oh yeah, maybe we should make this as easy as possible, right? If we're going to live in a system where everyone collapses into entropy, and that's the progression, right? You're born, you grow, you plateau, you decline, and then you die, and that's everybody. And that's not only everybody, that's everything. Everything does this, right? And the fucking dumb monkeys that are caught in it can't figure out, well, maybe we should make it as easy as possible for everybody. Maybe we should make this place like a nice, easy, just, you come in, hey, how you doing, friend? Like, we need you to take care of the food manufacturing and like all that kind of stuff, like the basics. We got some maintenance requirements, we got this kind of stuff, but outside of that, just enjoy your life. Just relax. But we don't do that. We're too stupid to figure that out. Right? And so all you can do, and like, people die senselessly. Like, it sounds to me like, Matthias, you're experiencing this just absolute senselessness. And it sounds to me like these people are experiencing absolute senselessness. It just doesn't make fucking sense. Right? And it never will. That's the odd reality of our existence. It's never going to make sense. It's never going to make sense. And you can spend a lot of energy and a lot of time and a lot of effort trying to make it make sense. Right? Because your brain is like that. Like, if you spend all your time in your brain about it, right? And that's where you spend all your time, then that's what you're going to do. And you're just going to spend all your time spinning those wheels, just like, and there just comes a moment where you got to just like send that energy from your brain into the universe and just say, it doesn't make fucking sense. And it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. You certainly don't need to make sense of it, right? You certainly don't need to make sense of it. And it's a tragedy. It strikes us with grief. And we're all grief-stricken. I think that's a big reason people keep tuning into this thing. It's because we're all grief-stricken about what's happening. We're all trying to find a way to deal with that kind of collective grief that we all have. Because it's become so easy to imagine a world that's better than the one that we have. You know? Like, we're no longer in a place where it's... Like, when I was growing up, I would constantly be critiquing capitalism. And people would say to me, like, well, it's not enough to critique something and not have a solution, right? And not have an alternative, or not have some different idea, or not have something, right? But now it's become obvious. Like, now it's become obvious. And part of the thing that I think we're all struggling with is that we can easily imagine a better society than the one we have. There are straight up examples, like across Europe, across Asia, right? There are just simply better examples where things are better. And maybe not better overall, right? Plus up, down, but like as basic as like, hey, China built a high-speed rail system, why can't we? Right? Real basic shit. And like, it's not gonna happen, and it isn't happening, right? And it's not going to happen. Like, Western civilization is not going to figure this stuff out. Because Western civilization cherishes above all the worship of money, right? That the choice is between improving the society for humanity and for the mass of the population, or the accumulation of wealth and the accumulation of money. And those two things counteract one another, right? And Western civilization's made its choice. It's made its choice. It's not choosing the masses. It's not choosing people. It's not choosing any of that. And nor will it. Like, nor will it. Like, it's simply not happening. That the boomers are deluded, utterly deluded. Like that, and they're not going to have a come to Jesus moment. It's not happening. Gen X has fallen into total nihilism. Like, they literally are saying it's never going to ever get better. Like, it's not going to get better. It's not possible that it gets better. This is it. This is life. Right? The millennials are falling into a different type of nihilism, where they're essentially suicidal. Right? And Gen Z is turning towards absurdism and detachment. Right when we need to collectively come together and fight. And chances are very good, like, as the culture heads into a recession, as the culture heads towards this depression, that we are going to enter like a Great Depression period, where the people who are in positions where they should be governing won't, and don't, and aren't, and won't. Like, just won't. And it's basically going to just be the mass of people fighting for, you know, the real basic shit that we all can imagine the society producing. And it's so fucking stupid. Like, it's so fucking stupid. And it looks to me like the populace is being about as stupid as they can be about it. And they're not interested in being better. Like, they're not. Like, everybody just wants to have their little snackies and have their little food, right? And people aren't really attached to their own emotional states and their own emotional being and their own emotional existences. And so everyone's just sort of reacting. Like C.R. Strifey just said, everybody's just trying to fuck, suck, and eat. Right? That's it. That's essentially the bottom line. And so you just end up with people who are just kind of milling about, and nobody is actively engaged in the world around them. And the people who are more actively engaged, well, they're the wealthy, they're the rich, right? They're the people who have the footing to be able to pursue their own objectives, right? More meaningfully. And what are they doing? Jeffrey Epstein's sex island. So it's just like the Vices, right? It's all this kind of shit. Right? Jeff Bezos rents out Disneyland, goes on all the rides by himself, kind of shit. Right? Shoots rockets into space, all this kind of shit. Right? Basically just a fucking total loser in the end of it all. My nephew asked me, just today, I was like on the bus to work, and my nephew just like pinged me, and we got talking about, he was like, oh, you're working on Labor Day? I was like, yeah, bud. Like, no rest for workers, right? And then he just asked me kind of casually, like, what would you do with $1 billion? And I know exactly what I would do with $1 billion, right? I would walk around handing out money. I would walk around handing out wads of $1,000 bills. I'm blown away that there isn't even one billionaire that's doing this. I can't imagine a better life. Straight up. I can't imagine a better life. Like, billionaires, when they try to get charitable, they get all like weird about it. They need to like set up some kind of fund or set up kind of some kind of thing, and like they surround themselves with rich people, all clapping and like hitting little champagne glasses, and then you find out that the charity that they're donating to is actually just a tax break for them, and in the end is actually like a for-profit thing. They actually make money off of this, like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is, right? It's not a charitable organization; it's a business. And and so like, of course we get reports back that all these rich people are miserable, right? Because they're living this miserable, terrible, alienating life where they think their wealth is what's supposed to have made them happy, but in the end they're just alone in a mansion, right? And and what would make anyone happy? I don't understand why there isn't even one. I would think that there would be one, right? Who would just be like, I wonder what it would be like to just walk around the streets of New York and hand $1,000 to random strangers, right? Like, you see this like on TikTok videos and YouTubers and all this kind of shit. Like, that's the kind of shit that they do, right? And when you do it, the people are like over the moon about it. They're like, and some people break down and start crying. It's like life changing, right? Like, hey Bezos, you want to actually feel some basic humanity, right? Walk around and just hand money out. Somebody comes and tries to rob you, just let them. Just fucking let them. All right? I would. I'd have like a basket of money, and someone would come with a gun and be like, give me the basket. I'd be like, sure. I got another one. I don't give a fuck. Get out of here. And like, you want to actually change the world? You actually want to change the world that you live in? You fake loser billionaires? Walk around handing money out. For real. Walk around just handing money out. You'll change the world. You'll change the world real fast. Matthias says, we as a population have long neglected the importance of our community and environment. A selfish society is what you get with the worship of capital over human life. Yeah. I mean, that's the fundamental truth. Like, that money is the end goal. The point is money. Hi, John. Thought you bailed on the stream today because of the protest. The stream started late because I had to work. I was at the protest earlier. And it wasn't a protest. It was a Labor Day march. But I made it. I'm here. Started late. It's going to be a short one because I got to wake up tomorrow very early. Get back to work. Yeah, the wealthy class's solution is build bunkers, right? Hide from the apocalypse. Collapse other than using that money to prevent it. Yeah. Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild to think about? That the wealthy class has literally built bunkers. right? They've spent money to build bunkers instead of actually attempting to avert this catastrophe that they themselves are responsible, by and large, of creating. Like, it's pretty staggering, actually. Like, the more you think about it, the more you have to sort of conclude that they want the apocalypse to happen. Like, I don't think you can actually walk away from the question of why aren't the billionaires, like, why isn't Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, like, why aren't these guys, like, collectively getting into a room and be like, we've got to do this? Like, the climate change is serious. We've got to confront it. We've got to be real about it. Like, none of this dumb Davos shit of like, oh, we're going to lower emissions by 0.385% over 23 years. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, shut the fuck right up. Like, why aren't they doing it? And the reality is because they want it. They're fine with it. They don't care. Doesn't matter to them. Right? Just simply does. It's like when Stephen Harper answered, like, climate change will be a problem for my granddaughter. I immediately thought to myself, yeah, I'm sure your granddaughter is super happy that you just fucking totally bailed on her. That you literally decided to put on record a statement saying, fuck my granddaughter, basically. Yeah, my granddaughter will get fucked, but, whatever. These billionaires need this money. Look at the money that the billionaires, because money's real and matters and has an impact on the world, right? That's the thing that really matters. Giving one guy $300 billion is a good idea. No, we can't have a king. We need to have all these separate powers and all this kind of stuff. But this one guy, he earned it. He earned it. Yeah. It's certainly not the inevitable end result of the system of capital and how it's structured to work. Nope. He earned it. He bootstrapped himself. He's a real, actual, for real genius. Like, ugh. The Sanderson brothers. I think it's funny because my last name is Sanderson, so this is real fun. The Sanderson brothers are still at large. RCMP is looking for them. Yeah. No, this is ongoing, right? And I suspect, like, the last time something similar to this happened, like, they ran up north, right? And once they're in the north, like, you'll never find them. But it's usually the elements that does them in, right? It's usually, like, they can't get food. Right? And then you get into, like, the winter months, and then they freeze their balls off, right? Who knows what their motivation is? Who knows what the story is here? Right? Who knows what happened? It sounds like madness to me. Sounds like a type of madness overtook these guys. Right? And nobody's got any, like, even theories. Nobody's even floating anything out. Right? Everyone's just reacting to the immediate trauma of it. Because, I mean, that's all there is to it at this stage in the game. And I don't care to speculate. Like, I could sit here and be like, oh yeah, these guys are looking at the horrors of the reality around them and are deciding to take it out on the people around them and all that kind of stuff. But who knows? Maybe they just did a bunch of fucking coke and lost their minds. Right? Like, maybe they're just like, one of them is confirmed deceased. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I don't think you get out of this kind of, like, I don't think you kill, like, 13 people? 10? I don't think you kill 10 people and then walk away from it. You know? Like, yeah, it's just, it's completely possible that people just go crazy. Like, that does happen. Right? Like, and so, I mean, it's outside of the, like, general tragedy of it. And honestly, I gotta be straight with you. One of the things that I'm starting to learn a little bit more with I learned pretty hard from the Keffels situation. I gotta be a little bit more reserved. I gotta learn more about situations before I make commentary. Because I'd rather be right. I'd rather wait and be right. You know? I'd rather have a good take by waiting and getting more information, dotting my I's, crossing my T's. Right? This is actually a really good update on the Keffels situation, by the way. It's good to rotate into this right now. Why not? Citing imminent danger, flare drops hate site Kiwi Farms. Citing an immediate threat to human life, Cloudflare has dropped the notorious stalking and harassment site Kiwi Farms from its internet security services, following an online campaign started by transgender Twitch streamer Clara Sorrenti to pressure it to do so. This is an extraordinary decision for us to make, and given Cloudflare's role as an internet infrastructure provider, a dangerous one that we are not comfortable with, CEO Matthew Prince wrote in a blog post Saturday in an about-face after an earlier insisting that the company would not block the site. However, the rhetoric on Kiwi Farms, site and specific, targeted threats that have escalated over the last 48 hours, to the point where we believe there is an unprecedented emergency and immediate threat to human life unlike what we have previously seen from Kiwi Farms or any other customer before. For years, members of the site created and operated by Josh Connor Moon, 29, have congregated on what they call a lighthearted discussion forum to organize vicious harassment campaigns against transgender people, feminists, and others they deem mockable. They gang up on victims and pool their personal details, such as addresses and phone numbers, in a practice called doxing, spreading vile rumors and targeting workplaces, friends, families, and homes. Another favorite tactic has been swatting, making false emergency calls to provoke an armed police response at a target's home. Some people subjected to the group's abuse have died by suicide. Sorrenti, who goes by Keffels online, has been leading a campaign to pressure Cloudflare to drop Kiwi Farms. In August, she fled her home in Canada for Europe after she was doxxed and swatted. Her online stalkers, however, found her in Belfast, Ireland, as well, and continued to intensify their harassment campaign against her, just as her campaign against Kiwi Farms and its enablers was gaining momentum. When a multi-billion-dollar company like Cloudflare has to drop Kiwi Farms because of an imminent and emergency threat to human life, it is no longer a matter of free speech. Removing Kiwi Farms from the internet is a matter of public safety for every single person online, she tweeted on Saturday. On Sunday, Kiwi Farms was inaccessible, but a version of the site with a .ru domain name was intermittently up and running, though it's not clear whether it would remain up. The decision to drop Kiwi Farms Saturday was an about-face for Cloudflare and Prince, who earlier in the week put out a 2,600-word blog post without mentioning the site by name, doubling down on the decision to protect it and comparing Cloudflare to a phone company that doesn't terminate your line if you say awful, racist, bigoted things. But Sorrenti and other targets of the site say it's far worse than that, as trolls on the site relentlessly pursued their victims offline, often for years on end. They're trying to get people to lose their jobs. They're trying to get people to lose their housing, to be starving and homeless. Liz Fong Jones, a former Google engineer and cloud computing expert who is transgender, told the AP last week. And then they go after people's families, and then they tell people that the only way out is to kill themselves. Moon started Kiwi Farms nearly a decade ago as a wiki site dedicated to harassing a transgender woman. Moon even used the woman's initials in an earlier version of the site's name. One time its users began to target other people, most active online users who are transgender, have autism or other mental conditions. Kiwi Farms in its current form was born in 2015. An overarching theme of the site's discussion centers on users' fierce opposition to transgender children receiving gender-affirming medical care. Members typically refer to those who support such treatments as groomers and pedophiles, rhetoric that is also used increasingly by conservatives in their opposition to LGBTQ rights. There has never been a violent incident in our history, which cannot be said for many other sites still on Cloudflare. This narrative feels like a lie spun up to save face. Moon, who posts on Kiwi Farms under the pseudonym Null, posted Saturday, in response to Cloudflare's cutoff. Reached earlier by the Associated Press to comment on the campaign against his site, Moon replied only, "The press are scum." KiwiFarms.ru is registered to and protected by the Russian company, DDoS Guard, whose customers have in the past included Russian government websites, including the Defense Ministry, and cybercriminal forums where stolen credit cards are bought and sold. Last year, DDoS Guard protected the pro-Trump social media website Parler.com for a time, after Amazon withdrew hosting services. KiwiFarms.ru was registered on July 12th, suggesting Moon, was aware Cloudflare would drop his site and thus create a backup plan. DDoS Guard did not immediately respond to a message-seeking comment on Sunday. Kiwi Farm's internet connection is provided by Vegas Nap, a Las Vegas-based company that said in response to queries last week that it does not disclose information about its clients. Contacted again Sunday, the company did not immediately respond. In the past, DDoS Guard has been known to discontinue support for some seriously problematic websites, apparently as a result of press inquiries. That may very well happen again in this instance, but I wouldn't bet on it, said independent internet expert Ron Gilmet. Obviously, a lot has changed in the world since February 24th, 2022, and I do believe that in general, Russians these days, and over the past 6 months in particular, have learned to care a whole lot less about the rest of the world thinks about them and their actions. Yes, I was incorrect about Keffel's still being a communist. She had broken with the communists in 2020. And the truth of that is, like, when I found out that Keffel's, I was so upset by this whole situation where she's swatted and all of this, that I really wanted to jump to her defense. And also I found it personally threatening, right? I'm like, oh, communists are having their doors kicked in, right? And I'll admit, right, I let my emotions get the better of me, and I wish I had have taken more time and gotten my story a bit straighter. Because I'm still following the story. It's still terrifying. It's still terrible what happened, right? It's still terrible what the police did, right? Like, everyone is going to, like, the news media is going to do everything they can to tell this story, right? Which is part of it, right? The Cloudflare story and the Kiwi Farms and all this kind of stuff. And, oh, it's a bunch of ghouls on the internet and all that kind of stuff. But the police are the ones that doxed her, right? The police are the ones that did it. So this is just how the media is going to absolutely remove the police from the story, right? That they're going to hyper-focus. And this deserves focus, obviously, because there's a big conversation about the whole free speech idea and the naivety surrounding the idea of the concept. The best way to defeat bad speech is with good speech, right? That's the naive idea that comes out of places like Joe Rogan, right? The best way to defeat bad speech is with good speech, right? That forgetting completely that the people who are using bad speech are psychotic serial killers, right? Are literally only talking to you so that they can lead you to commit suicide and lead you into places and lead you into traps so that they can literally kill you, right? Literally the only reason why Nazis and fascists engage in a conversation is so that they can find the most successful way to commit a mass genocide. That's literally the only reason they're talking. And if you think the best way to stop bad speech is good speech, then they're more than happy with that, right? Because they're not engaging in the conversation in good faith. They're only talking to you until they can pull out a gun and shoot you. That's literally what is happening. Like, take a look at this situation, right? You think, how much good speech do you think these people would care about? How much good speech do you think people on these Kiwi farms are going to be like, oh, that's a really good point that guy had. You know what? I'm going to... No. These people are fucking psychotic. Obviously. Like, that in my view is like completely black and white. Like, you're seeking to harass and try to convince, like, anyone, transgender, doesn't matter, anyone, to commit suicide, to dox people so they got to flee the country, and then pursue them outside of the country even. You're a fucking psycho. Like, you're just a fucking psycho. And the idea that we're going to, we'll beat overt serial killing mass murderers, psychopaths with good speech. It's just baby brain shit. And most of the nation thinks this way. Most of the nation thinks that you can convince, like, Ted Bundy, Ted Krasinski, right? Like, fucking serial killing mass murderers. Yeah, you just need good speech. Yep, good speech will get it done. Mm-hmm. That's right. Like, shut up. Like, literally. It's such a dumb position to take. Like, that made sense when I was like 20. Right? When I was 20 years old, I was like, yeah, good speech. And we should all come together and we'll all agree. And all, yeah, good speech will get it done. No. Like, when the billionaire class wants to, like, fucking destroy the society, they're not going to use speech to do it. Right? And the only reason they're talking to you is so that you can fight amongst yourself. That's it. Like, it's just, this story really reveals a lot about the nature of our society and the nature of capital. Like, the idea that a place like Kiwi Farms is allowed to exist at all and ever was, right? Like, literally a site that is designed to harass people. That's the whole point it exists. And they're open about it. Here's a place where we dox people and, like, put horrible things and like, our society is just like, yeah, that's if you want to beat that, you got to do good speech. Like, it's just baby brain shit, and that's where we are. Like, that's where we are. Meanwhile, people like Keffels, right, political activists, people who have run for office, right, people who are fighting for the rights of human beings to live freely and be human, right, are having to flee the fucking country because these fucking psychos are given platforms to spew their goddamn garbage around. Like, yikes. Big yikes. And more I'm beginning to think that, like, giving the internet over to private interests and giving social media companies control over these platforms is an enormously bad idea. Just like an enormously bad fucking idea. Like, first of all, I can't imagine a better way to divide a populace than to have, like, a bunch of different social media platforms, right? So everyone gets shoved into a little ghetto, right? Like, some sections of the populace are using TikTok. Some sections of the populace are using YouTube. Some are using Facebook. Some are using, I don't know, fucking LiveJournal, MySpace, right? And that everybody's getting divided up into, like, little groups where they're all separated and contained, right? And nobody actually talks to one another, right? And on top of that, everyone's anonymous, so you can fucking say what you like. And that's considered quote unquote freedom. Instead of having, like, one platform where we all exist on, where everybody knows who everyone else is, right? And that you interact with everyone. And, like, wouldn't the most rational thing to do if you had a social media, like, if you were actually interested in building a real social media platform that was actually for the society and actually for communities, wouldn't the first thing that you would do be to create a local group that you would say, like, yeah, I'm from this place, right, in this neighborhood in this place. And then everybody who's in that neighborhood and in that place just goes there and ends up there. And then you can kind of stand up and be like, oh, hey, I'm doing this thing. And then a bunch of people who literally live near you, like literally live down the street from you, right? You can go interact with them. You can organize with them. No, because these social media platforms don't exist to organize people. That's not what they're for. They exist to sell people products. That's what they exist for. They exist so that you have a little light box that gets into your face, right? And you can watch people from all over the world, right? And the system, the algorithm will find that person who lives in Venezuela or Uzbekistan, who's doing the thing that entrances you, that takes your attention. And then when you swipe, it's an ad, right? But they won't let you know what your neighbor is doing. They won't let you know. Like maybe your neighbor's trying to organize like a softball tournament, right? No social media platform will give a shit about that. They don't care. It's not interested. Because the system's designed to break you apart. It's not designed to actually organize you or to let you find out what's going on in your own neighborhood or let you know what's going on like with your neighbors. Right? It's that systemic alienation, right? It's the systemic alienation. All right, is the conservative leadership vote this Saturday? What a great question. When is the conservative leadership vote? I've been so disinterested in this story because it's Pierre. Like it is Pierre, right? Saturday, September 10th. Yep, coming up. Like it's not actually close, right? Like the last time was actually more interesting, but it was actually close, and McKay almost won, right? McKay almost beat O'Toole, and it was real close. Like McKay lost on the third ballot to O'Toole, so O'Toole beats McKay after like 3 rounds of voting, right? So that's pretty fucking close, right? That's pretty fucking close. It's not close in this case. Like it's Poilievre versus Charest, and the polling data, like conservative leadership race Canada polling. New Ledger poll, 44% conservative voters. His chief rival is backed by 17%. It's not fucking close, right? 44% of the conservative voters are behind Poilievre, 17% behind his chief rival. Second place, 17%. Not close. This is going to be a slam dunk for Poilievre. The numbers are going to come in on Saturday. That's why I've been kind of disinterested about reporting on it, because it's like the only thing that's interesting in the story is that the Liberals have the gall to pretend as though Jean Charest is the guy that the Conservatives should actually go for, when the Conservatives themselves are like, no, it's Pierre, right? What'll be interesting to see is if Pierre can actually pivot away from, I had an article. Did I close it? I did. If he can pivot away from the fact that most of the people... Oh, there you go. Majority of Albertans opposed to the Freedom Convoy, despite vocal minority, right? Like, will the populace kind of hang Poilievre out to dry over his support for the Freedom Convoy? Because the majority of the populace is against the Freedom Convoy, right? 61% of Albertans opposed the convoy's objectives. 67% disagreed with how they tried to achieve those objectives, right? So you've got the majority of like the core constituent conservative voters, Albertans, who are not in favor of the Freedom Convoy. Pierre Poilievre came out in favor of the Freedom Convoy, negotiated with them, right? So I'll be interested to see how that circle gets squared. And if I'm Justin Trudeau, or Jagmeet Singh for that matter, I'm definitely going to pound on that pulpit, right? Definitely going to pound on that pulpit, because it's a slam dunk winning. Like even conservative voters are against the convoy, right? Like people thought that the objectives were dumb and that the way that they went about achieving those objectives was dumb. Straight out. See who the UK elected for new Tory leader? You got it. New Tory leader, UK. Let's go. Liz Truss wins Tory leadership race to become Britain's next PM. We got look, another fucking Margaret Thatcher type, right? With the Karen haircut, right? The ghoulish like flesh just sort of etched across her skull. This is actually really bad fucking news for the Tories, straight up. This smacks, in my view, of looks very much like a Mulrooney to Kim Campbell sort of situation, right? That Mulrooney basically hung the Canadian people out to dry and resigned in disgrace, right? The way that Boris Johnson hung out the people of the UK out to dry and resigned in disgrace. And then who did the Conservatives put up? Kim Campbell, a woman, right? To pretend as though they gave a shit about any of that. And what have the people here in the UK done? A woman. To pretend like they give a shit about any of that. Right? This is real bad news for the Tories. Like what happened to the Conservatives here in Canada when this kind of trajectory happened is the Conservative Party was absolutely destroyed. Like decimated down to 2 seats. Literally 2 seats. And it took them 30 years to recover. Right? You could see exactly the same thing happening here. The people of the UK are pissed off. And they have every reason to be. The Tories have been a complete and total disaster. Like, in obvious ways. Right? Buffoonish, clownish, absolutely self-interested, totally fraudulent, overt liars who obviously have been dismantling any system they can get their hands on in order to enrich themselves. And it's obvious that's what they've done. Right? Like you gotta have like a nail in your head, literally like, I vote Tory because they're good. Like literally that's how you gotta be. Like straight up lobotomized at the bottom of the barrel. Or you're just a Mr. Burns style psycho, right? Just like draining as much blood and life force from the society as you can in order to put more gold in your dragon hoard pile. Because the number is good somehow. And you're this, I have 100 billion instead of 99 billion. That will get me into heaven. Ha 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 ha, right? Like this kind of like crazed megalomaniac, like the replacement of the spiritual self with money is essentially what that is, right? And that you're just attempting to level up your spiritual self by extracting as much wealth from the society as you possibly can. These are literally the only 2 poles that exist anymore for people who are supporting Tories. And it's manifesting itself in the society. It's manifesting itself into the society in actual real ways now, right? Like, it's not abstraction. Oftentimes, like, conservative types will get in, and liberal and leftist types will point out how psychopathic they are. But for the average citizen, nothing really changes, right? Because smart conservatives, people like Stephen Harper, who I would say is a fairly smart conservative, they'll change things on the fringes so that the average citizen doesn't actually notice. And if they do notice, it's so small scale that it doesn't really play into their daily life, right? Whereas what's happening now in the UK, like the energy crisis alone, the populace is literally getting together and forming a strike, basically, a don't pay your energy bill. Right? October 1st, there's this whole movement where everybody's just saying we're not going to pay our energy bill. Right? And the populace is getting together, and this is building steam. The people who are organizing it are actually getting put onto... This is the other thing that's got to be terrifying for the power structure in the UK, is that things have gotten so terrible that the media is actually talking to the people who are in protest. Right? Usually when people do protests like this in America and Canada, they're silenced completely. They're shunted off to the side. They're not going to talk to communists. They're not going to talk to socialists. Right? They're going to platform the most psychotic person they can find and then put a liberal beside them. And that'll be the discussion. Well, in the UK now, they're actually talking to the striking workers. They're actually talking to the trade unionists. They're actually talking to these people and platforming them and listening to them and hearing what they actually have to say. And these guys are literally saying, like, yeah, these guys are psycho billionaires who are obviously pilfering us. They're saying this shit on national television in the UK. And so you know things are desperate. Because even the media is going like, maybe we should actually listen and talk to people. We're supposed to do journalism? Like, that's how bad it is in the UK, right? So the Tories aren't going to survive because they've been just ruthless, demonic, completely psychotic. And obviously, you got to be dunder to think anything else, right? Or just another psycho, right? Yeah, she's got tax breaks for the rich written all over her, of course, right? Also, she's pledging to cut back Social Security to get the economy going, right? Because austerity is the way to do it, of course. The way to build a strong economy is to destroy the economy. That's essentially austerian politics. Yeah, good for the UK for speaking up. I mean, Brexit made this possible. I don't know if Brexit made it possible, but like, in my view, it's the same shit. Like, what we're seeing in England is going to happen throughout the United States, throughout Canada, throughout all of Europe, because capitalism is failing. Because capitalism is a failure. It's no longer functioning, if it ever did, right? It can't function, if it ever did, right? It's the people who are in charge are no longer actually interested in doing things for the benefit of the populace, right? That everything is about extracting as much wealth as possible and putting it into the pile. Because the person who has the most amount of money is a super genius god person, right? It's just this delusional Santa Claus level delusion, right? Brexit expedited this process. I think I'd have to do more thinking on that before I took a position. I don't know that it matters, honestly. Like, I think that Britain cutting themselves off, like, the trouble is capital itself, right? The trouble is capital itself. And everyone, all the capitalist nations are going through this right now, right? They're all experiencing these kinds of narratives and these kinds of stories because capital is doing everything it can to destroy itself right now. Yeah, expect UK to pay 80% more for heating oil this winter. And that's the narrative that's happening in Germany. That's the narrative that's happening in France and Spain, right? Although the French have a nationalized energy system, and so they're going to weather it a little bit better. But what do you think's going to happen in Poland? What do you think's going to happen in Austria? Like, what do you think's going to happen in all these places? Like, the populace isn't going to go cold and hungry for long, right? They're not just going to sit there and let these Machiavellian psychopaths destroy their lives while for fucking nothing, right? Because at the end of the day, what is it all for? It's so that these guys can just take money and put it in an offshore account somewhere and so that they can look at it. Like, really? Like, that's what it actually is. That's what we're actually getting. Like, the more you actually think about it, the more insane it becomes. What are we actually getting for all of this sacrifice and suffering and all this kind of stuff? Well, what we're getting is a big, giant pile of gold, right? Under, like, literal barons and kings and shit. And, and fucking endless, ceaseless war. That's all we're getting. Like, it's crazed. It's just crazed. And I fully expect to see the Tories get completely shellacked. Like, I expect them to get completely shellacked. Because they're psycho. And unless the entire society is also psychopathic and masochistic, they're gonna think, yeah, maybe we should try literally anything else other than these total fucking losers who are completely betraying us at every turn. Like, I don't know why the populace continuously supports a system that is obviously betraying them, right? And at this point, it's just obvious. Like, and this goes back to the whole Dark Brandon conversation. That the power structure is doing everything it can to legitimize itself, right? And the way that the Americans are doing it right now is that they're legitimizing the system by demonizing the other side. They've split the populace in two, and they point at the other person, and they go, oh, he's the problem. We got to fight against that guy, right? I'm here to defeat the Democrats, right? And so they legitimize themselves by the demonization of the other side, while the populace fails to recognize that the entire structure of the system is designed to do that. And we're all just like watching a WWE game while everybody just extracts all the wealth out, with the end goal being abandonment. Like that's the legit end goal for these short-sighted narcissists, is to extract all the wealth out, and then when populaces begin to fall into revolt, to leave, and leave behind an occupying force, which is the police, right? Just leave behind an occupying force, let the police fight with the populace, right? And what's the worst case scenario for any of these guys, right? The worst case scenario for the rich and the powerful is that a section of the populace will actually overthrow the police, right? Will actually regain control of their own society and their own place. But by the time that happens, anything valuable, all the resources and all that, will have already been extracted, right? So sure, the people can overthrow whatever tyrannical terrorist organization we leave behind, call it a police force or whatever. Sure, they can have control over that Dust Bowl, who gives a fuck, nobody cares area, while we go off to fucking Jeffrey Epstein's fucking pedophile island, right? Or to a bunker or something. Like, that's what's happening. That's what's happening. And it annoys me that we're just constantly caught in this conversation of like, wow, I can't believe Biden said that, and it's so all this, and oh god, and Trump's response, and oh my god, and all this, and it's just theater. It's just, and it's so obvious. Like, it's so obvious that it's all just theater. It's big theater. There's a lot of money behind it, right? But it's not politics. It's literally not politics. And it breaks my heart when I see people in the system, when I see people who are going into the American system, and they think it is politics. No. Like, no. No. The only way this system could become politics is if the people surrounded the halls of power. Because then that would actually add stakes for any of these guys. Because right now there's no stakes. Like, what's the stakes? Right? The stakes is that we're going to have an election and maybe I won't be the governor. Right? Maybe I won't be the president again. Right? Maybe I won't be this congressperson. Right? So they'll just go off and work as a CEO for some multi-billion-dollar corporation, make a 7-figure salary, showing up and doing a speech or something like Clinton did, right? So like the stakes for these guys is literally, oh, I lost that position to this other guy. He got that position. Oh well, now I'm the CEO of a Vanacore or something, right? So who gives a fuck? These guys are fine. There's no stakes for them, right? So there's no politics because none of it matters to them. The only time it actually becomes politics, and the only time it will become politics that's meaningful at all, is if there are thousands and thousands of people outside of their jobs, right? That they have to literally walk by thousands of people to get to their jobs. And until that happens, it's not politics. It's just the veneer of politics. Right? It's like pretending an episode of Friends is actually you hanging out with friends. Right? Like, that's basically what it is. Like, you watch an episode of Friends, and imagine if you watched an episode of Friends and then you talked about those people as if they were actually your friends. It's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. We're caught in this mass hysteria and this mass delusion that we refuse to snap out of. And I think a big reason we refuse to snap out of it is because snapping out of it means having to face some really hard truths and face some really hard realities about the nature of our society and the nature of how it actually functions and how it actually works. And I think the vast majority of the populace is simply not emotionally prepared for that trauma. That's why you have this like libertarian right that's essentially living in a fantasy world, right? Everything will be better if anyone can do anything they ever want. Like it's a dream. It's a dream world, right? And it's why we're retreating into like Jesus Christ is coming back at any moment, right? That's why we're retreating into the Russians stole the election, right? Like it's why conspiracy theories and religious cults and kooky like QAnon shit and Russiagate and all these things. It's why it's so effective and why it's working so well, right? Is because we're so emotionally stunted that we lack the capacity to look at the truth and see it for what it is. We live in a delusional vanity world, right? And it's so easy. It's so easy. It's easier in many ways to just drop off. It's easier. Like I literally, like this stream thing that I do, I literally could just stop. I could delete my Discord, right? All the people I organize with, I could just block them, right? I could just put my head down, go to work, spend my entire life looking at fucking pornography, playing video games, watching Marvel movies, right? And just grind that out until I die. And I think most people are. Until they can't. Until that reality can no longer assert itself and that the actual true reality it enforces itself on them, like it's happening to the citizens of the UK. Like you can't live in this delusional dream world when your energy bill is $2,000 a month. Reality asserts itself. Broccoli cheddar rice. Now you've made me hungry, friend. How dare you, sir? Good to see you. Long time lurker, first time commenter. Good to see you. Broccoli cheddar rice, that makes my day that you came in here. I'm constantly in a perpetual state that my whole channel is going to collapse at any moment. Because YouTube is definitely not like I've been what they call deprioritized, right? So my shit doesn't get sent around. Very, very straightforwardly. So like, share, subscribe, hit all the bells, hit all the whistles, donate, all the shit. Movies have trained us to think a hero will rise to save us. Yep, our role is to watch. Exactly. We are not participants. We're NPCs, right? We're NPCs. That the political system isn't to be engaged with except with a little vote, right? Call in, right? Call in and vote for the person you want to see continue on here on The Voice or whatever the fuck it is, right? It's still the summer. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And the whole entire structure of our society is designed to funnel people into all of this. It's designed to funnel people into this constant direction, down this perpetual path of passivity, right? And it begins almost immediately, from the moment of your birth. The entire educational system, it vets for one thing, right? People like fucking Peterson, hacks like fucking Murphy and the rest of them, Shapiro and all this, they'll be like, well, school is there to vet for competency. They want to find the most competent people. The people who go to the top of the meritocracy are the most competent, and the most competent should be the people who run the place, right? That kind of thing. Yeah, sure, they're the most competent. They're also the most obedient, right? Because the system doesn't vet initially for competence. That's not what it's actually vetting for. It's not vetting first for competence. It's vetting for obedience first. That if you're given an assignment or you're given something and you say, this is dumb, I'm not going to bother, it's a waste of time because most of it is, well then you're vetted out. right? So it's vetting for obedience first. And then after you say, oh yeah, okay, I'll do that, right? After you obey, then it might be interested in something like competence, right? But you have to be obedient first. You have to sit and be precious, write your lines, do the pointless work that is pointless while you waste your youth in these prisons. That now you're under threat of literal strangers coming in and just shooting the place up. Like, yep, capitalists are cashing in on the back to school shit, of course. Well, my girlfriend and I love what you have to say. Try to catch you as often as possible. Thanks for doing what you do. Broccoli cheddar rice. Thank you. Thank you so much. Those are very kind words, and I need them. I need them right now. You know? This is like, I'm constantly these days in a crisis of faith. You know? Like, I want to believe that I'm just going to keep doing this and that it's going to fucking go somewhere and that it's going to build, it's going to grow, and I'm going to, you know, become something. And then I'll be able to pay my bills with this, and I'll be able to actually do this, and I'll become an influential person that people will actually listen to and give a shit about. Right? I want to believe it. But sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't. I do it anyway. But then comments like yours, and thank you, Anemone, I appreciate that too. Thank you. It's like energy. It's just like a burst of energy. It's just like a hit up. It's just like a thing. So thank you. Thank you for your kindness. We live in a hopeless period, John. Make no mistake. We live in a fallen world. We need to keep pressing on. That's all we can do. Yeah, and the thing that kills me right now, this place could be really nice, you know? This place could be really nice. And it wouldn't be that difficult. It really wouldn't. Like, we have all this infrastructure. We have so much. We have so much. Right? We have all this incredible infrastructure. We have all of this stuff. It's just our society has become dominated by a death cult. And the death cult demands that you prove your value to the death cult, or else you don't get access to food and shelter. And so everyone is constantly in this perpetual fighting to prove their worth to psychos. Like, to total psychos. People who are literally like, we should destroy Ukraine and that'll show the Russians. Like, people who are literally fighting to murder thousands of people so that they can get lithium. Right? Like, these people are nuts. They're fucking nuts. And so when it comes to actually showing our value to them, how do you think they're going to act? Right? And if you're constantly in this perpetual state of needing to fight for basic shit, for real basic, like low level, like food and shelter, like low level shit, right? Well, then you get to live in a society that's constantly in retrograde. Isn't that fun? Isn't that nice? Where you get to live in the society that's constantly sliding backwards, that's constantly in this sort of perpetual state of self-destruction and self-immolation. Isn't that fun? Like, isn't it super fun to watch a society eat itself alive? That's super fun. Like, we're taking a lot of psychic damage. We're taking a lot of psychic damage. And people don't like to talk about that because I think people feel like it's a kooky kind of a concept, but it isn't. Right? We're living in a fucking apocalypse. This is an apocalypse. This isn't like Buffy the Vampire Slayer or fucking Supernatural or something. We're literally in a fucking apocalypse. And we're all pretending like it's not happening. And when we talk about it, it's all like, no, we're trying to keep things light and all that kind of, like, fucking grow up. Grow up. But it's even, it's like, without even getting into, like, the spiritual aspect of it, like, you are living in an apocalypse that the system is trying to convince you isn't happening. And so, even to get through the gaslighting, the uncertainty, to break with the group. The breaking with the group is incredibly hard to do. That's incredibly hard to do. So much of how we've gotten to where we are is because of groupthink. Is because no one wants to be on the outside of the group. And so everybody just goes along with what the group is saying. Right? Because if you break with the group, you might be ostracized and shunted off to the side. Because obedience is what the system vets for. And always has, from the very beginning. Right? So what do you end up with? You end up with a situation where some billionaire puts a poster up that tells an overt, blatant, balls-face lie. Like, the way to build an economy is to destroy the public sector. Right? That's austerity. The most blatant, bald-faced bullshit lie you've ever heard in your whole fucking life. That the way to strengthen the economy is to destroy the economy. That's Austerian economics. Right there. They say it in front of your face. And so they'll put a poster up that'll say something like that. And you'll look at it and go, that sounds like fucking bullshit. But there's a big fucking poster up there, so it's got to be kind of true, I guess. And so you'll turn to this guy, and you're not going to say, fucking bullshit, right? Fuck this guy. Because this guy might turn to you and go, how dare you, sir? This is commonly understood. Everyone knows that this is the truth. You're the oddball. You're off on the side, shunted away. I'm going to tell everybody and all my friends, you're the weirdo. You're the weirdo, and now suddenly you don't have any friends, you don't have any connections, you don't know anybody, you don't have any way up, right? So your whole life's trajectory is fucked up because you turned to this guy and said, fuck this thing, right? So what do? You turn to this guy and you say, oh, what do you think of that? Right? What do you think of that? Because you're trying to figure out what's going on in the group. You're not trying to make a statement. You're not trying to get your head up. You're just trying to figure out what's going on in the group. And so you'll say, what do you think of that? Or maybe you'll say, oh, pretty weird, eh? Maybe. Right? Kind of softly. And then this guy, he's also thinking, oh, that's what a fucking bunch of bullshit this is. What a fucking horse shit kind of bullshit. This is fucking shitty. So he's thinking the same thing you're thinking. But he doesn't want to exclude himself. He doesn't want to be a part of the group. He doesn't, because you might do the same. You might, how dare you, sir? Right, so what does he do? You ask him, what do you think of that? And he might go like this. I don't know. Or, I guess. Or, it's, yeah. What a thing. What a world. Right? And so then suddenly the poster gets consensus because nobody actually wants to go, fuck this bullshit, this obvious, overt, grifting lie that's so totally full of shit that it's criminal that they're allowed to put it up there in the public space, completely unchallenged. Right? So then you just end up with a whole group of people being like, yeah, that's the way the economy works. The way to build an economy is to destroy the economy. The poster says so. Yeah. And then you just go to your work, you go to your job and live your fucking normal life, and that's all just in the abstract space until suddenly your bills triple. Why? Because they fucking destroyed the economy. Like they said they were going to. And we all just go fucking along with it. And then you end up with these situations. You end up with my situation. Where I don't give a fuck being in the in group. This society is a society of fucking total losers. No exceptions. This is a loser society. We are abandoning our own children. We are abandoning our civilization. We are abandoning everything. So that a couple of fucking narcissistic psychopaths can put money in an offshore account somewhere. That's the entire structure of the piece. What a bunch of fucking losers we all are. And I'm more than happy to say it. I don't care if you put me in the out group. I don't give a shit. I don't want to be in your stupid group. Your group is stupid. Right? People who are walking around trying to be in the in group in this society are the biggest losers you'll ever meet in your life. Just get a job that'll destroy yourself and your children and the society and the people and humanity. Just get a job. No one is a bigger loser than this. No one. So, don't. Just fucking don't. Like, stop listening to these people. Stop listening. Like, I'm running out of time today, but I'm so looking forward to reading this one. This is an interview with Steve Guilbeault on constitutional battles ongoing, Biden hitting targets. He had a Tyee interview, right? It's our Minister of Environment. I'm so looking forward to going through this and listening to this guy apologize, act as an apologist for the system of death that's actively committing a mass extinction event in our society, right? And this guy's just gonna like wank you, basically be like, "Well, we're doing that. We're doing that. We banned the straw." Like, it's fucking embarrassing. And there's like a little part of me, right? I'm pretty pleased with my sort of capitalist part in all this. Because I work in a place that does local sourcing of food. Everything's organic, right? We're trying to keep our environmental footprint as low as we possibly fucking can. We're in like a tourist historical, we're in like a historical site, right? And so when people come to this historical site, right, they come into this establishment and they get the best food they're going to eat, the healthiest food they're going to eat, with the lowest cost to the environment, right? Do they pay a little more for it? Yeah. Yeah, they do. And so my fate in this fucking nightmare that we've created for ourselves is that as people are walking to the apocalypse, I ask them, "Hey, you want some coffee? Would you like a cookie with that?" That's not so bad. There are worse positions to be in, right? I think about writing a play from time to time where that's essentially what is happening the whole time. People come in and it's just a guy serving refreshments while everyone walks to hell. That's it. That's the whole fucking play. Right? If you guys want to see some real theater, by the way, like if you want to see a real piece of theater, go into an establishment like a Starbucks, like any of these places. Any coffee shop you want, your local coffee shop, right? And don't be a fucking leering dick about it, but sit down and watch the person at the till and the person making the drinks. You want to see a real piece of theater? Something that has humanity, something that'll change your perspective on the way the world operates and the people who live in it. Sit down, watch the person at the till for 2 hours. For 2 hours. They do it for 8. You watch it for 2. It's going to change your life. It's going to change the way you look at other people. Especially if you're one of these people that think that those workers are NPCs. Especially if you're one of those people. Yeah, I should write that one. I've been thinking about it. I know exactly what I would call it. What size would you like that to be? That's the name of the play, right? Or was it that? Or was it, what size can I get you? That's what it is. What size can I get you? I say that at least probably 50 times an hour. At least 50 times an hour. Right? What size can I get you? Yeah, can I get a latte? What size can I get you? What size can I get you? What size can I get you? And then this is exactly what I would do with broccoli, because you seem fascinated by this idea. So I would open it up with a song called The Corporation. And it's all about how great the corporation is, right? How great it is for us to sell ourselves. And then the barista, so you'd go through a little bit of all of the spoken dialogue, by the way, would just be the serving of the customers. That there wouldn't really be much else beside that. And the plot would be really straightforward. So he'd serve the customers, and then he would sing a song called Someday I'll Be Middle Class. Someday I'm hoping to be. One day I'll be middle class. And then there'll be a change in ownership, right? Because this guy's owned, right? Like, we're all owned. So there'll be a change in ownership, and the ownership will change the way the pay scale works. So this guy will try and unionize the place. Unionize, 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 right? And then the ownership will fire him. That's probably how the play will end, right? And then we'll get another rendition probably of Someday I'll Be Middle Class. Or maybe The Corporation again, right? And that's the story. Because, like, that's the story. The most dangerous thing, and the capitalists know this, by the way. The capitalists are well aware that art is the most dangerous thing. That if you make plays or write music, right, and you become a popular person and you're anti-capitalist and you're anti-establishment and you're anti the system, then you're one of the most dangerous people in the society. That's why they've worked so hard to destroy the arts. And they've worked so hard. One of the first things they did when the neoliberal period started was they destroyed the arts. Because they know how dangerous it is. And any time, I've seen this. Remember, what was the name? BoJack Horseman, right? BoJack Horseman was on Netflix, and it was doing very well. People were really liking it. And then the guy that wrote it started to become more and more overtly anti-capitalist and overtly anti-billionaire. And then Netflix, as BoJack Horseman is actually doing very well and is actually popular, well, they cancel it. No explanation. The guy that was making it said, I had another 3 seasons ready to go. I was ready to keep doing this. And they just canceled it. No explanation. When I heard that, I was like, yeah, I know why. It's pretty obvious. Like, if I were to do such a play and put it up at, let's say, the Fringe or something, right? Like, you think CBC is going to pick it up? You think it's going to become a big, like, supported corporate phenomenon? You think we're going to get like a Kim's Convenience moment where suddenly there's like a big, oh wow, it's John Sanderson. He did that. Oh, we gotta get this guy. Let's put him on the main stage. You think any of that's going to happen? No. Like, no. Straight up. There are times where things slip through. Right? Mr. Robot was one of those. Right? Something that was explicitly anti-capitalist. It slipped on through. Still haven't watched it, of course, so I should. Okay, guys, I gotta cut it now because I gotta go right to bed. I'm waking up at 6 a.m. tomorrow to do another shift. But the stream's gonna be on time tomorrow, okay, guys? Bless each and every one of you for being here. Thank you so much for popping in for this short stream. This one was just a fucking stream of consciousness. This was some James Joyce shit right here. This was just me, like Finnegan's Wake, like blah, 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 blah. But bless each and every one of you. Bye, Major. Take it easy. You too, Ligandies. Okay, guys. Always remember, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes that you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.